So you're telling me that South Quincy, you can't confuse South with West Quincy?
Correct. South Quincy and West Quincy are very definite neighborhoods. There's an overlap. They have certain things in common. They both have ties to the granite industry. And you could sort of get into long arguments with a bunch of people over where you draw the line, but I think South Quincy is one place and West Quincy is another.
What are the highlights of South Quincy that people should know about?
Well, South Quincy, actually, we tend to think of it as something out of the last 100 years or so, but obviously it goes way back. I mean, South Quincy is the actual original home for the Adams. Well, not the original, but the home for the Adams, John and Abigail Adams, there at the corner of Franklin and Independence. It would include Penn's Hill, where Abigail goes to watch or see the smoke from the fires of Bunker Hill with the 7-year-old John Quincy by her side. So, South Quincy goes way back. It's probably different from the northern part of the city in that it was always smaller units. Even in the times when it was farms, like in the Adams time, they were the smaller units. They weren't the big estates that you saw in the north, and that sort of set the tone for the neighborhood, I think. And then, of course, it is very much tied to the granite industry. A lot of the cutting yards were there. A number of the people working there worked either in the granite quarries on the North Common or over further in the West Quincy Hills. A couple of the Monte Granite Yard is still there, as we were talking about. And it was home to a large Italian community. Basically it's the original home for the Quincy's Jewish community. The first synagogue services were on Water Street. Grossman's began on Water Street when Louis Grossman came here. That's where he sort of established and where the business began. It became one of the 2 or 3 biggest businesses in the city and in the region. So it's got a long history and, kind of continues today.
What were some of the other ethnic groups that were there?
Well, again, it's always been, I think, a somewhat multi-ethnic community. Scandinavian, we tend to think of as more as West Quincy, but at that point where the lines kind of blur, you can certainly have some overlap of the Scandinavians in the late 1800s moving in there. Very early on, because they worked in the granite industry, although you don't think of it as an Irish neighborhood, it was probably in the earliest stages a neighborhood that had more than its fair share of Irish immigrants too, because it also would have been a working person's neighborhood. And today, of course, it's really become kind of a multi-ethnic community, and it's got various communities of both South Asians and East Asians, and people moving in from all sorts of areas there. So, and you find it. You've got the halal markets along Franklin Street, and it continues to sort of reflect the ethnic diversity of the community.